Well, to unpick some of that speech with me is our foreign editor, Philip Turle. And Philip, let's start with Ukraine first of all. Strong words, certainly, from Joe Biden, but from at least what I heard, no explicit reference to that partial mobilization that Putin had announced earlier on today.
No, but a widespread criticism of Vladimir Putin and the war in Ukraine, basically saying this is a brutal war chosen by one man, a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, has violated the UN Charter and invaded another UN member. He also criticised the plans for a referendum, saying it was a sham referendum, a violation of the UN Charter again, saying that it was not true that Russia was threatened. No one sought conflict with Russia. And backing that up by saying Vladimir Putin was wrong and 141 nations had condemned the war, and the US had been behind plans to motivate $25 billion to help Ukraine, with another 40 countries contributing money to help the Ukrainians fight against the Russians. So a lot of condemnation of Vladimir Putin, but also warning about nations, he said, who might get the idea of imperial intentions of trying to invade one of their neighbours. It would put into question everything the UN Charter stood for. He said that the US, like everybody else, wanted this war to end. Russia was the only one standing in the way of the war being brought to an end.
And one of the most interesting things, in my opinion, that he touched on was this idea of the need to reform the UN Security Council, where, of course, all members, that includes Russia, have a veto, and that can mean that it's hard for there to be consensus at the highest level of the UN body. And there was a suggestion there from Biden that some African nations should be invited into the Security Council.
He did admit that that would be a good idea. He said that the UN needs to be more inclusive. The Security Council should refrain from using its veto systematically, but only in extreme cases. He called for Africa, Latin America and the Caribbean to be allowed into the Security Council and into the UN General Assembly as full members. And he said that it would only be with an enlargement of the United Nations that the world would progress in its fight to introduce better human rights and a better fight against climate change and food insecurity.
Yeah, there was lots indeed that he was talking about there. We'll have more analysis for you on Joe Biden's speech later on France 24.